各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看我们 J 与 J 论坛，由我跟我们的好朋友 Jim Noe 一起主持。How are you doing, Jim? How was your week?
Week is fine. I'm glad that we have some stability in the weather now, although I think we still have a lot of volatility, both in economics and in politics. So at least we can count on the weather for the next week or so. We couldn't say that 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. What do you think about? Well, let me tell our audience, 各位观众，希望这个礼拜大家都过得很好。我们这个天气现在好，非常的好，所以 Jim 说我们这个至少未来这礼拜可以享受这个好的天气但是我要谈的就是我们刚刚 Jim 也提到，我们这个经济跟这个政治上还是有很多这个疑惑。那我们来谈一下。First of all, biggest news, obviously the market, the correction, sector rotating, but also Governor Abbott lifting the mask mandate. What is your take on this? We know it's not absolute, but what do you feel about that?
The mask mandate or the fall in the stock market?
We'll talk about Governor Abbott's mask mandate first, and then we'll get into the market later.
I'm not sure it was necessary. Some people are arguing that it was not appropriate. I think there's a psyche that's built into most people right now that wearing masks is a good thing. And so I kind of think two things. One is most people are going to keep wearing masks. Most retail establishments, restaurants, etc., are going to keep requiring them. Maybe not all of them are. I think office activity and things, people are going to take their normal case. I think the mask mandate wasn't necessarily being enforced, so I'm not sure it made as much difference as before. The second thing, I think after the problem that Governor Abbott has been having with the fallout from the weather and the power outage, he was looking to make a bold, dramatic move for political reasons, and I think he's done that. And now he's backtracking a little bit because he's finding out that it wasn't as widespread popular as it was. I've heard some of his comments earlier today. My point is, when you put it all together, I don't think it's going to make that much difference in the very short term. But I think over time, mask wearing will probably decline a little bit. I'm already noticing some people getting a little bit more lax about it. We can all debate whether it's a good thing to do or not. I find that and social distancing are easy prices to pay. I'm speaking personally now, are easy prices to pay. Both to mitigate against the risk of spreading, but also because of personal etiquette and respect and courtesy for other people who may feel more strongly about it than others. So when I go into an establishment, I put it on and just out of respect for everybody else.
Even though you're one of the few that's been vaccinated already.
Yeah, but I've been vaccinated, and I think what that means is I am not as much of a risk of catching COVID, and I'm not much at risk at spreading COVID, either one. So I'm insulated. But the reality of it is when somebody looks at me, they cannot tell whether I've been vaccinated. And so we have this kind of patchwork quilt of people walking around out there, and nobody really knows. So I also think when somebody like Mr. Biden stands at the podium and gives a speech with nobody around and he's wearing his mask, what he's really doing is signaling, I think masks are important and I expect everybody else to wear a mask. And so that people are reading that signal, and most people are saying, okay, we still need masks. What I find kind of amusing is when I'm out jogging and I see other people jogging or riding a bicycle or even walking, and there's nobody else around, they're wearing a mask. And if they want to wear a mask, that's fine with me, but it's not doing anybody any good.
I don't. Not when I'm out in the park, out in the open, working out. That's a little bit. But like I said, everyone's choice is different. Maybe it's easier to keep it on so they don't forget to put it back on or whatnot. But it's a shame, though. It's a shame that not all Texans have the same compassion you have, being considerate and respectful of others. You already know what I would say about even taking, like I said, we have to take out politics. Everything you just said hit the nail on the head, that maybe for political reasons to get reelected. Now he's backtracking. Reports came out today that he consulted only 1 out of the 3 or 4 medical experts. He made an announcement out of Lubbock, very strong supporters. It is a shame to pander for votes, to not believe in science. No matter what our take is on the effectiveness of mask, we know that it is premature. We know that President Biden has criticized this decision. A lot of scientists and experts have said that. I firmly believe in Dr. Fauci and CDC, and I have no reason to dispute that. I'm not a medical professional. I have not been vaccinated, but even if I do, I will do what you said, and I agree that I will continue wearing a mask to protect, out of respect for others, and until there's a higher number of people that has been vaccinated. There's a big risk in this, when it becomes politics and for votes. You said a lot of businesses and private institutions will still require it. The fact they required it, and the state requiring it is very different. I know a lot of businesses that are hurting already, and this is an additional burden for the employees, additional risk. They cannot enforce this. I know that the Houston Police Chief, Art Acevedo, made an announcement yesterday pertaining to this issue. He said that HPD is not out to arrest anybody or put anyone in jail or write a ticket over this, but he did warn that people have to respect that it's still trespass. If you go to a private establishment, a restaurant, a bar, or a grocery store, and they want you to wear a mask and you don't wear it, then it's still trespass. But the fact is, this is just going to create a lot of confrontations, which we already see it. I see so many videos and news reports of confrontations of people not wanting to wear masks. It kind of become an argument about science and along politics now. And that's very worrisome, because without politics, then everything you said still holds true, no matter who you support. Everything you said at the beginning of the show is exactly what most Texans, if we all think like that, we won't even be in this spot with this pandemic. So thank you, Jim.
Well, I would hope not. I'm very hopeful for that vaccine getting out. I'm hopeful that people will respect each other. I hope that people respect, if you go into an establishment and the owner or manager of that establishment says masks are appropriate, then you should respect that or go someplace else. So we'll see.
Numbers doesn't lie. Science doesn't lie.
I'm really hoping. I think there are other things that are more important. Kids going back to school are more important. I think keeping businesses open. For instance, I'd much rather see a business open and not restrict restaurants, say, to 50%. I'd rather see let people come and occupy the place as long as, again, social distancing and mask wearing are on. So be open, but be careful. It's like, yes, you can drive your car and drive quickly if you want, but be careful and wear your seatbelt.
Well, if we, that's a perfect analogy. If we tell people wearing a seatbelt is voluntary and non-enforceable, a lot of people would not do it. This is a safety issue. Yes, I support business opening, but why can't we have business open 100% while you still have social distance and mask mandate? Why? What is Governor Abbott thinking? I mean, you said earlier to deflect from the fiasco of ERCOT 2 weeks ago. but you're just creating more problems. Look, the numbers will spike in 2 weeks. We already seen in the last year what's going to happen. Death rate goes up, numbers spike, and then back to shutdown again. What is the purpose? It's very short-sighted. It is very, very short-sighted.
Well, I think as time goes on, with more and more people getting vaccinated, and more people having the antibodies from already contracting it, and then getting the antigens, so they may have tested positive, but they may have not had symptoms. And over time, we'll gradually get toward herd immunity. So I think a lot of things are going to change over the next 3 to 6 months. I hope so.
Well, that's the plan. So he jumped the gun by a few months. There's nothing we can do about it. I think we need to go out there and let our votes speak for ourselves too.
Yeah.
To make sure politicians are responsible and not pander to voters. Back to what it was supposed to be, a responsibility to the people that elect you. Not just to the group that you think would vote for you no matter what. Yeah. Now, we have problems in our state, but overall in our country here, I'm licensed, so I cannot talk about specific positions or stocks, but we could talk about overall economic environment, about the Feds, about yields raising, 10-year Treasury yield. We could talk about. I want to hear what you feel. A lot of people are very worried because we're very close to a 4.5. We're 50 basis points away from an actual correction. And the NASDAQ has spit back all of its profits, over 8% year to date. What do you think? Why is this happening? And what would mitigate the risk?
Well, one, you're in the market every day. I am not. But I think the securities markets, and to an extent the real estate markets, have become addicted to not just government stimulus, but increasing government stimulus. And the irony of it is, with very low interest rates, a lot of people forget about the math. When interest rates fall, bond prices rise. All asset prices rise. The irony of it is, the lower the interest rates, the larger the impact of every incremental reduction. When you go from 5 to 4, it's not as significant as when you go from 3 to 2. The multiplier effect when you inverse interest rates to the asset price is very, very high. That's the result of monetary policy. You can't just look at monetary policy. You have to also look at fiscal policy. And fiscal policy, we've had a terrible irony. Since Bill Clinton's administration, every president has doubled the national debt over their term. And what that has meant, since President W. Bush and since Obama and now Trump was only in office for 4 years, but the national debt doubled over that 4 years. And what that means is deficits are going up faster and faster, which shows that we're having increasing stimulus. Now, what is the debate going on in Congress right now? The debate is how big President Biden's initial stimulus is going to be. My point, and I'll come to a quick summation here. The stock market, I believe, is significantly overvalued relative to earnings. Significant. In other words, it is riding for a fall. And interest rates, and the reason it's gotten up so high is two big things. One is monetary policy has kept reducing interest rates, which drive up the asset price. And now fiscal policy has kept increasing the government stimulus. And now investors are saying, uh-oh, We may have reached a peak, and the risk is now on the downside. I think what's caused Chairman Powell to make his speech today is we can't go much lower. And guess what? Inflation is kicking up. He says it's not, but it really is. Energy prices have been low and declining for a very long time. Energy prices in my adult life have been the most significant signal to future inflation. They have been going down for quite a long time, for at least 5 years. And now, guess what? They have taken a significant jump up in the last 4 to 6 weeks. They've taken it up in the wholesale markets. The price of oil has gone from 30 to 60. The price of gasoline at the pump has gone from $1.50 to now they're projecting $3. This is very, very significant. I can tell you, I shop at the grocery store. Grocery prices are going up, and they're sometimes masked a little bit by the absence of sales and coupons and things. People are trying to disguise it, but the reality of it's going up. I can tell you by being in the real estate business, lumber prices have surged. Lumber prices, the biggest component of housing costs, have surged 2.5 times in the last year. Okay. Is that a bubble? Yes, it's a bubble. Do I expect it to come back down? Yes, but it won't come back down to where it was a year ago. Okay. My point is inflation is gradually finding its way into the economy. That is one of the reasons why longer-term treasury rates, starting with 10 years all the way out to 30, are going up. Mortgages are going up. Are they going to go off real fast? No, probably not. But it's a warning sign that things have gone about as far as they can go. Now, what could turn that around? Corporate earnings. But I'm not certain that corporate earnings across the entire market are going to rise. The very fact that the tech stocks are down, they have been the biggest sector influencing rising markets in the last year or two. They're taking a pause now, and they too are enmeshed in the big political controversy. You mentioned politics earlier. Okay. My point is, I think everybody needs to be very, very careful. And there's no speculative additional froth in the securities markets right now. And now, why am I as concerned about this and as wary and as watchful? Because I was in Japan in the first quarter of 1990 when the Nikkei went from 30,000, when it went from 39,000 to 26,000 in 2 weeks. And then 2 months after that, it went from 26 to 13. In other words, it lost 2/3 of its value in less than 3 months. And it has never, ever regained anything like that. And it stuck Japan into what they call the lost decade. It stymied their growth, and that stymied other things in Japan as well. I think we as an economy have gone about as far as we can go, and we need to get back to fundamentals. Okay, you've been patient.
There's so much that I wanted to discuss with you. Everything you said was right on point. Proceed with caution. We should always proceed with caution. It's funny. It's great you mentioned Japan. I'm very familiar with Japan. I've lived there on and off in my earlier days. I've studied Japan's economic collapse. One thing we want to tell our viewers is the reason why Japanese have the last 3 decades now. A lot of it because of our United States manipulation by controlling their. Well, either way, that's a different topic. I mean, we could talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
Their inflation went up too fast. In the boom 80s. A little difference that because the world trades backs is by U.S. dollar, and the fact that our treasury controls that makes our market the safe haven. Mm-hmm. And you said something very interesting. You said that inflation is going up, no doubt, because we haven't had significant increase for over a decade. It is actually unhealthy for basic economic principles to not have any inflation. And secondly, it's the speed which it rises. We know that the 10-year treasury yield was below 1% 3 months ago, at the end of the last year. So it went from, in 2 months' time, it went from below 1 to 1.5% so quickly. I mean, we knew it would increase. It is logical. It is supposed to increase to maybe even 2, but we thought it would be more gradual till the end of the year. And also, what spooked investors the last few days is because yield ones, and also because, like you said, inflation, and we know this is, like you said, the over dependence on government stimulus. So it's priced in, but I do have to present the different side of the story to you. A market correction, this doesn't qualify as a correction yet. Not yet. This is not like, say, last March or say 2008, 2009, where there's actual fundamental issues, cracks with our mortgage-backed securities in 2008, or last year because of the pandemic or the dot-com bubble. Is this a bubble? We could say that. You mentioned technology sector. The fact is, technology, NASDAQ was up, I think, 48% or so last year. And year to date right now, it was up 8% from the high of February. Now we lost that, okay? Today we lost all of that. But if you take that out, if you invested last year in March till now, or even from the beginning of the year, you still had a 48% increase if you were mainly technology stock.
Sure.
And now we want to talk about technology. Because of the pandemic, it's sped up a lot of usage of technology that would have taken years. Zoom, like we're using Zoom right now, Jim. I never thought we would be taping in the studio right now, right? If not for the pandemic. So Zoom price, went through the roof, and now it's coming back down because sectors rotate. Yeah. This is investing 101. Sectors rotate. So all the hot pandemic stock, online retailers, technology stocks are going to come back down a little bit. And the ones that are out of favor will come up because the vaccine rollout, like you said, pandemic's over or soon to be over. So we're looking at airlines, cruise, entertainment companies. It's going to go up. Traditional institutions like bank stocks have been going up a lot. So what happens is that when there's sector rotation plus this, how do I say this? Profit taking. There's also options due, a lot of options due, a lot of short squeeze. And very importantly to me, that is new. A new factor that comes in is because of technology, we have this Wall Street horde, the masses, okay? We call it retail investors. What you said about proceeding with caution is absolutely true. In the last 2 months, actually since last March, a lot of new investors, younger investors that are on Reddit, Wall Street Bros, or GameStop, how they turn that up. Well, that applies to a lot of technology stocks too. So what happens when somebody goes on YouTube or goes to these chat groups and start pumping the stock? Well, retail investors have limited funds. So when they all rushed in and they felt like, wow, anything you buy, you're making double-digit gains. I mean, the last 6 months, literally, especially the last 2 months, right? You close your eyes and you pick some specs or technology stock and you're going to make a lot of money with Tesla. But the fact is, when there is a correction like this, these retail investors, they don't have the money to buy more. They cannot reach their target price. They do not have the patience like institutions or hedge funds that has a target range. So for us, we know when it drops their support level, we're going to buy more. But retail investors, they cannot because they have limited funds. So they're stuck. And when the market rebounds a little bit, like say Monday, they sell off to take their profit. Well, the sad thing is that I know that in a few weeks or maybe a month, when the stimulus package comes out, the overall environment entails a perfect storm of a surge in equities pricing. We cannot fight the tide. There's too much money floating around. I mean, this is still the safe haven. The Fed does want us to recover from the pandemic. So we know it'll surge. But in the meantime, we know that we hold or we add. But for retail investors, they're going to get out. They can't hold it. They have a stop loss limit. They'll sell out at a certain point, or they get close to even, they'll get out like on Monday. So my point is that because of technology, because of a lot of new for some investors, look, I don't want it to sound dismissive. We have to admit that this new technology, this new trend, it can hurt a lot of people. But in a way, it also changes the way traditional hedge funds and venture capitalists and institutions, investment banks, it changes the way it operates too, right? Because it's always, we talked about it before, it's always the insiders that always make money. But this proved that the general mass can also have a say in how stock price go. But the flip side is they could be stuck holding the bag, or they can lose their savings. Sad thing is, a lot of these kids that are trading online right now, their generation is they didn't go through the pain. Their parents went through the dot-com burst in 2001, and a lot of people lost the shirts off their back. A generation later, I mean, you have 2008 mortgage-backed crisis, where people, I mean, bankruptcy. I mean, we forget the pain. So yes, what you said is to proceed with caution is great, but if you look at strictly fiscal policy, monetary policy, overall environment, and the float out there, it really leads to a surge in stock price for the next few months. Okay, I don't think what happens in the next quarter or to the end of the year. But the old saying, sell may go away. So we still got a couple of months to see what happens. But I don't think it's time to panic, to sell off. I think it's I'm not going to give you a recommendation. I'm talking about the overall, this whole. So between me and you, I think this is normal. Sector rotation is normal. What happened this week is normal. We, every index, NASDAQ is the only one that's down more than 10% year to date. Dow Jones and S&P is still only a 4 or 5% correction. Until it hits 8 to 10%, it's not really a correction. And when it does hit that, it'll retest the support level. Institutions will come back in and it'll come back up. But like I said, investing should be long term. You should. I mean, God, good Lord, I don't know what to tell the day traders. This is what I do for a living. There's no science behind this. The previous price and PE ratio, none of that matters in this kind of market. And the fact is that this is an art. It is not science. There's nobody that can tell you, guarantee every time they'll make the right trade. No one can ever sell at the highest point and buy at the lowest. If they tell you that, then it is absolutely not true. There's a range, there's a swing, and you have to be cautious. So,
and things like that. Those are techniques, or buying on margin. Those are techniques to accentuate the volatility. And what happens is pendulums overswing. They swing too high, they swing too low, etc. That's why some long-term investors say, I don't watch the market every minute of every day. I look at overall trends, smoothing, all those kinds of things, and they say I invest in fundamentals. Fundamentally, everything has to come back to the basics. How much are earnings worth? And earnings have to be compared against the cost of money, which in turn is compared against the concerns over future inflation and government participation in the markets, either through monetary policy or fiscal policy. And so those are the big drivers that you have to look at. And how do you look at future earnings? Preferences, technology, what changes people's interest in buying? Retail goods or wholesale goods or supply chain issues? How do you improve efficiency? I mean, it all comes back to fundamentals sooner or later, and markets always overshoot.
I absolutely agree with you. I think for our viewers, we have to be cautious, but don't panic. Never panic, sell or buy. Yeah. Stay the course. Long term, if you're
Let's come back to your point about day traders and young young people that may not have experienced this stuff, I hope that they are wise enough to understand the risks that they are taking when they behave the way they do. When I heard about the GameStop experience and AMC and a couple of things a few weeks ago, I thought these guys are being played for the dupe. They are running up the stock, and the later they come in, the higher the risk they have, and the shorter their ability to stay in. Everybody else is waiting for it to fall. It's the old-fashioned pump and dump. Run it up with somebody else's money and then let it fall, and sell on the way up. Take your money, wait for it to fall, and come in and buy on the trough, and let the other guy be the dupe. That's what scared me about watching.
There's going to be some of these people the chat leaders or these instigators or YouTubers that are pumping and dumping, just like Kramer would be doing or anybody else. But remember, different generation, Jim. So I don't want to go against them because we're a different generation from them. I think we touched on it before in a different episode.
Yeah, but they have to learn by experience.
They did change the way, say, hedge funds disclose whether they're shorting a stock or not. There is changes that came from this. You know, this is a classic institutions, insiders versus the general public. It really is. Yeah. It's like that. But yes, there's pump and dump, and a lot of people are stuck. Are stuck. There is going to be a lot of people that are stuck. But GameStop prices are still trading 20x, 30x. It's still very, very unreasonable. It doesn't make any sense, honestly. But we have to end our show. I know that we have to end the show on this note. I hope this coming up week will be better for everybody. And I hope we all stay healthy and safe. And that's
good. Okay. All right. At least we're better off than we were 2 weeks ago. So thank goodness for Texas. God bless Texas.
Take care, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Bye-bye.